Good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Church of Evanston. I'm Curtis Evans, your worship associate this morning, along with Reverend Susan Francis. Whether this is your spiritual home or you are newly discovering this community, we're grateful to share this time together. We strive to be an inclusive and welcoming community, seeking truth in love and nurturing the human spirit for a world made whole. We are guided by our principles and values which remind us in every moment and through every challenge that each of us is worthy of love and that we are all connected through the vast and beautiful web of existence. We come together to remember our kinship with one another and to hold one another in heart and mind with tenderness and careful attention, and to dedicate ourselves more fully to living our shared values. People of all ages are welcome and an important part of our community, our faith community. We are blessed to have the children in the sanctuary for the first half of every service, and the entire service is for all ages about once a month. The nest in the front is our designated area for families with young children, where we have quiet fidget toys and activities and a kid-friendly order of service. Nursery care is available in room 11 every Sunday. As part of being a welcoming and an inclusive community, we have some information posted on the screen that will help orient you to UCE and our service. There's a few announcements. Join us for the frozen yogurt social service after the service today. Sponsored by the Real Team and made possible through a grant from the endowment. We're actually going to be doing this indoors instead of the south lawn as originally planned. Yeah. With our friends invited from Family Focus and from Second Baptist Church to enjoy a tasty dessert and a wonderful afternoon on the lawn. A special thanks to the UCE endowment for providing the funds to support this event. And we'll need a little bit of help setting up tables and breaking them down afterwards. So please find Becky Crawford and Cheryl Mounts. Raise your hand. They will help us to get that rolling. Our annual church picnic and flower communion service will be next Sunday. Please bring a flower, or a few, from your garden or the store if you're able. We'll have plenty of extras. For the picnic, bring a side dish, a salad, or a dessert to share. We'll provide the meat and meatless options for the grill. Following the picnic, head to Raymond Park for the inaugural Interfaith Family Pride Festival from 2 until 5 p.m. Fun for all ages. And finally, many of us are looking forward to Sandra Robinson's retirement party. This coming Friday from 6 until 9 here in the sanctuary. Drinks and hearty appetizers will be served, and there will be an art exhibit featuring over 30 UCE artists. If you're planning to attend but haven't RSVP'd yet, please do so. And please look at our volunteer request. We still need some help. You can find the link in this week's newsletter. And now, let us settle into our shared time of reflection, celebration, and inspiration. As we begin our worship service, those joining online are invited to gather your chalice as we join in beloved community. Welcome to worship.
To start our service this morning, we're going to light 5 candles in honor of the deceased. So I invite you all to take a deep breath in and exhale slowly, becoming aware of our community, our online community, everybody here in the sanctuary. And as we light our candles, I'm going to name 5 categories And if you have someone who fits into the category, I invite you to speak their name aloud. And when I give this invitation, you're welcome to speak aloud, or if you need to just hold the person in your heart, that's okay too. Breathing in, I invite you to think about those you know or know of who have died this past year in the service of a branch of the military. Breathing out, I invite you to speak their names aloud. Breathing in, I invite you to think of those you know or know of who have died this past year from disease, cancer, COVID, heart failure, other illness. And breathing out, speak their names aloud. Breathing in, I invite you to think about those you know or know of who have died this past year due to someone else's actions, through domestic violence or state violence. And breathing out to speak their names aloud. Breathing in, I invite you to think about those you know or who you know of who have died this past year from other causes. And breathing out to speak their names aloud. Breathing in, I invite you to think about those in your life who have died in previous years who you are remembering this Memorial Day weekend. And breathing out to speak their names aloud. Taking a final breath in, I invite you again to be present in this community. Those in the sanctuary, those online, those who are here to grieve with you and support you. We hold all these people in our hearts in our service today.
The Unitarian Church of Evanston resides on land that was recorded as being transferred from the local Potawatomi community to the U.S. government in 1829, shortly before the Potawatomi in this area were forcefully removed west of the Mississippi River. This land was then sold to white settlers. We remember the ancestors of contemporary African Americans, the individuals, families, and networks of black people who built our country's culture and economy, a role forced on them originally by enslavement. We acknowledge the intentional violence that landed on North American shores in 1619 and has continued throughout the generations and remains a reality today. These acknowledgments are one small effort towards building long-term solidarity with contemporary communities. We commit ourselves to take what we learn here today and incorporate it into our lives and turn our thoughts into actions. Please join us in our words of shared commitment. We name these realities with honor for all of the ancestors, respect for our descendants, and gratitude for the land we use as sacred space. Becky Crawford and Cheryl Mounts with the Racial Equity Action Leadership Team brought the flowers today to celebrate today's Yo Fresh Social. As they light our chalice, symbol of our living tradition, please join in an adaptive, responsive reading of There Is Light by Eric Williams. The words are on the screen. I will read the words in plain text, and you will read the words in bold yellow text. In the beginning there was light. Throughout creation there is light. Within each part of creation there is light. Within you, there is light. May this small flame be a constant reminder of our true nature. Thanks. Please rise in body or spirit and join in saying the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Before we sing our opening hymn, I invite those joining us online to greet each other in the chat, and those gathered in the sanctuary, turn to one another and briefly say good morning.
Please stay after the service to continue your conversations during our Yo Fresh Social. If you're new to UCE, please stop by the welcome table with the red cloth at the back of the sanctuary to get more information about our community. Let's keep creating new relationships and kinship among each other. Please remain risen and join in singing our opening hymn, 1054, Let This Be a House of Peace. We'll sing all 4 verses.
house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of freedom, guardian of dignity and worth held deep inside us. Let this be our house, a platform for the free voice, where all our sacred differences here shall not divide us. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let all in this house seek truth, where scientists and mystics abide in reverence here. Let this be our house, a house of our creation, where works of art and melodies consecrate the atmosphere. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of prophecy. May vision for our children be our common theme. Let this be our house of myth and lore and legend, our trove of ancient story and cradle of our tender dreams. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be a house of peace. Let this be our house of peace. Let this be our house of peace.
Our story today is The Wall by Eve Bunting and illustrated by Ronald Himmler. This is the wall, my grandfather's wall. On it are the names of those killed in a war long ago. Where is Grandpa's name, I ask. We have to find it, Dad says. He and I have come a long way for this, and we walk slowly, searching. The wall is all black and shiny as a mirror. In it, I can see Dad and me. I can see the bare trees behind us and the dark, flying clouds. A man in a wheelchair stares at the names. He doesn't have legs. I'm looking and he sees me looking and he smiles. Hi, son. Hi. His hat is a soft squash green and there are medals on it. His pant legs are folded back and his shirt is a soldier's shirt. A woman as old as my grandma is hugging a man, old as my grandpa would be. They are both crying. Shh, she whispers. Shh. Flowers and other things have been laid against the wall. There are little flags, an old teddy bear, and letters weighted with little stones so they won't blow away. Someone has left a rose with a droopy head. Have you found Grandpa yet? I ask. No, Dad says. There are so many names. They are listed under the years when they were killed. I found 1967. That's when my grandpa died. Dad runs his fingers along the rows of print, and I do too. The letters march side by side like rows of soldiers. They're nice and even. It's better printing than I could do. The wall is warm. Dad is searching and searching. Albert A. Jensen, Charles Bernowski, George Munoz, he mutters. His fingers stop moving. Here he is. My grandpa, I ask? Dad nods. Your grandpa. His voice blurs. My dad. He was just my age when he was killed. Dad's rubbing the name, rubbing and rubbing, as if he wants to wipe it away. Maybe he just wants to remember the way it feels. He lifts me so I can touch it too. We've brought paper. Dad puts it over the letters and rubs on it with a pencil, so the paper goes dark and the letter shows up white. You've got other parts of the other guys' names on there too, I tell him. Dad looks at the paper. Your grandpa won't mind. They were probably friends of his anyhow, I say. Dad nods. Maybe so. A man and a boy walk past. Can we go to the river now, Grandpa? The boy asks. Yes, the man takes the boy's hand, but button your jacket. It's cold. My dad stands very still with his head bent. A bunch of big girls in school uniforms come down the path. Their teacher is with them. They're all carrying more of those little flags. Is this the wall for the dead soldiers, Miss Gerber? One of them asked in a loud voice. The names are the names of the dead, but the wall is for all of us, the teacher says. They make a lot of noise and ask a lot of questions all the time. Dad just stands there with his head bowed, and I stand beside him. The girls stick their flags in the dirt in front of the wall and leave. Then it's quiet again. Dad folds his paper that has Grandpa's name on it and puts it in his wallet. He slides out a picture of me, one of those yucky ones they take in school. Mom made me wear a tie. Dad puts the picture on the grass below Grandpa's name. It blows away. I get it and put it back and pile some little stones on top. My face smiles at me from under the stones. Grandpa won't know who I am, I tell Dad. I think he will, Dad says. I move closer to him. It's sad here. He puts his hand on my shoulder. I know, but it's a place of honor. I'm proud that your grandfather's name is on this wall. I am too. I am. But I'd rather have Grandpa here taking me to the river, telling me to button my jacket because it's cold. I'd rather have him here.
Now is our time to settle into a moment of reflection. Before we read our joys and sorrows, I want to take a moment to honor those who have served and are serving. I will invite you to stand if you're comfortable and remain standing until I get through the list, and then we'll have a blessing. Please stand if you have served in the military, in the United States, or elsewhere at some point in your life. Please stand up if someone in your family has served. Please stand up if you know someone who is currently serving. I should have done that in a different order. Oh no, a few people stood up, okay. May the lives of those who have served be remembered. May the lives of those who are currently serving be safe. May the challenges of our lived experience be shared. And may the joys of deep friendships
and career accomplishments be acknowledged and celebrated. Blessed be. Please be seated. If you have a joy or a sorrow that you would like spoken aloud during the worship service, you may write it in our book that lives on the table just inside the sanctuary doors, or you may email Reverend Eileen or myself, or you may submit a form through the homepage on our website. These are the joys and sorrows that have been shared for our service today. From Janelle Britton. A toast of scotch to my beloved husband, Michael, who passed 3 years ago today. He was the love of my life. Judy Wyden's memorial will be Friday, June 7th at 11 a.m. Harry Hirsch is helping the family organize the service. On our Memorial Day weekend, we also remember the Chicago police officers killed in the line of duty. Officers Louise Huesca in 2024, Arena Preston and Andres Vasquez Lasso in 23, and Ella French in 21. For peace in our cities, there must be both restorative justice and law and order for everyone. Jordan Struber shares, "Thank you for all the cards. They are all hanging in my room, and it brings me joy to have them." Jordan is in a rehab center right now. "I am starting to take steps, and I'm looking forward to being back in person by the water communion, which will be in September." And Lee and Jane Banner are delighted that Catherine, Mo, and Nadine are all with us this morning. Welcome. Oh, only Nadine. All right, welcome. Sharing these concerns of the heart is part of the practice of beloved community. Together we expand our celebrations and lessen the burden of our grief. You're invited to come forward down the center or the aisles to light a candle for the joys and sorrows on your heart. And if you would like a candle brought to you, please raise your hand. Please come forward.
Please join in saying our communal words. For these joys we give our thanks. For these sorrows we give our love. Please join me in an attitude of prayer and meditation as I share with you the prayer, This Sacred Thread, by Heather Janules. They once dwelled among us, the people of memory. They who knew us, they who taught us, they who hurt us, they who loved us. They touch our lives time and again through their presence and their absence, through familiar scents and favorite songs, through old stories and renewed sorrow. As the earth turns and leaves fall, we reach back to renew the bonds between us. With hearts and hands open, we hold on to love, ever stronger than death. We reach back in gratitude and understanding. Without our time together, the pain and the joy, we would never be who we are today. We would have little to pass on ourselves. Without fear, with thanksgiving, with hope for all that awaits, remember those who have gone before to honor the cycle of life and death and our place within this sacred thread. Blessed be.
The rumbling thunder seems appropriate. As we say in our covenant each Sunday, service is our law. UCE is called by our mission, values, and principles to contribute to our community, to form accountable partnerships, and to express gratitude through giving. Today's offering will be shared with the Night Ministry, a Chicago-based organization whose mission is to provide connection, housing support, and health care to members of our community who are unhoused or experiencing poverty. You may text to give, mail in a check, or put cash in the collection bowls, or give from our website. If you write a check, please indicate in the memo line if your check is for the shared offering or some other giving. The ushers will now come forward to pass the collection bowls down the rows. Please give as generously as you're able, and may what you give bring you joy.
Thank you, Gregory. Thank you all for your generosity. Our reading this morning is a simple and profound statement by Maya Angelou. I've learned that people will forget what you said. People will forget what you did. But people will never forget how you made them feel. Thank you for the beautiful, moving music this morning, Gregory. last time that you sat with a friend and talked about a foundational memory? It may have been a good memory or a challenging memory. The sharing of our life experiences is not only one of the ways that we process those experiences and incorporate them into our lives in an emotionally healthy manner, but it is also beneficial for our physical health. Telling and listening are both part of the process. Telling your story, especially when you're divulging troubling feelings and experiences, not only enables you to create a coherent narrative, but it reduces tension and stress. And that process causes cognitive changes in the brain that tell your body to relax. That tells your brain you're okay now. Nancy Morgan, a clinician and director emeritus at the Georgetown Lombardi Comprehensive Cancer Center, reports that research shows that this type of processing, the telling of our stories, can help improve our sleep, reduce our blood pressure, and lower our heart rate. On the other side, listening to a story has similar health benefits. Paul Zak, a neuroeconomist, which I've never heard of that before, at Claremont Graduate University, studies the brain basis for human connection. He explains that listening to a story that captures us, that moves us, whether it is a happy story or a sad story, triggers a specific cascades of events in the brain and the body. First, your heart rate increases as your attention is piqued. And then as we continue listening, the brain is prompted to secrete oxytocin, the neurochemical that is known for promoting bonding between individuals. And that release of oxytocin activates a sort of chill out response in the body, also lowering your blood pressure, easing gastrointestinal distress, among other benefits. It is difficult to share our stories, difficult to share challenging stories, sometimes even hard to share our good stories if we're conscious of not wanting to brag. But the sharing of our stories is really important for our emotional, our mental, and our physical health. For many of us, if we're not asked about what has happened over our lifetime, we rarely tell our stories. One of the simplest ways to explore our friends' past or our family history, whether it's our birth family or our chosen family, is by asking. And I know that asking is hard sometimes. I am the oldest child of a Vietnam veteran, and I called my dad earlier this week to get consent to share what I'm going to share this morning. My dad, Richard, shipped out of Fort Benning in Georgia with the Army's 1st Cavalry Division and arrived in An Key, Vietnam in 1965. He was honorably discharged at the end of his tour in 1967. When I was in high school in the late 80s, we traveled to Northern Virginia to visit my dad's younger brother, who was also a Vietnam veteran, only he was in the Navy. One of the days that we were there, my dad took me and my younger brother into Washington, D.C., and the Vietnam Veterans Memorial was one of the places we visited. And the memorial, also known as the Wall from our story, is so big, and it has so many names. I was really grateful that Curtis agreed to read the story because I cried every time I tried to read it. Because I remember it like that. I remember it was really quiet. It was so quiet, but there were lots of people. And we walked the wall slowly, and occasionally my dad would pause. And at some point, it dawned on me that he was recognizing names of people he knew. And when I realized that, I stopped wandering. I had just been looking around, and I went and stood by him and walked with him. And I have a vivid memory of him pointing to a name, and then the two of us just standing there in silence. I had too little life experience at that moment to comprehend the complexity of my father's emotions in that moment. And honestly, having never served in combat, I may never comprehend. As a teenager, I knew he was experiencing many feelings, but I did not know then how to phrase a question. And so we ended up not talking about his time in the Army. And it didn't come up again, or at least it didn't come up again with me and my little brother, right? We were there visiting my dad's brother, who was also a vet. But there was no conversation for me and my brother with my dad. And that experience stayed with me. When I went to college, the very first history class that I took solely because it covered the Vietnam War. And I wanted to learn more. I wanted to have some context for if and when I ever talked with my dad about that part of his life. My dad rarely talks about his time on active duty, but on the occasions when I have asked him a question, sometimes a nebulous question that just leaves the space open for sharing, and sometimes a pointed question, in those times I have been gifted with a story. And it took me a long time to finally ask him a question, over a decade after that history class in college. And when I finally did ask, he was willing to share some of his stories with me. And after I asked the first time, it was easier to ask the next time. Part of creating space for someone to share their history with you is about not having any expectations. It means sometimes the answer will be that they don't want to talk about what you asked them about, and that has to be okay. Sometimes it means starting the story and stopping, and just holding that space of silence. Making space for the silence that comes before the story is part of building trust, part of caring for each other. Those times when we don't move on to another topic, when we don't get up and leave, when we stay present, when we look at that person we're talking with and really see them for their full selves in that moment of silence. Maya Angelou's quote is applied in a lot of contexts, but I think of it here. People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. You don't have to have the perfectly formed question. You don't have to have the perfectly formed response if somebody shares their story. You don't have to have the perfect hug or however you hold that silence, you just need to be present. Folks will remember how you made them feel. Those times of silence are times when we are preparing for the next time. The openness to let someone know there is no pressure to share and that you will be there if and when they decide to share, those moments can be transformational for you both. That flip side of being the listener is being the person telling their story, because that person has to feel safe in order to share. The stories we don't share readily, there's often a reason. Maybe it is simply too painful, and that is okay. Maybe our social circles have made it clear that while they are tolerant and understanding of that part of our history, they don't really want to hear about it. Our story may disrupt their comfort. This is true for many of us with marginalized identities. For example, those of us who identify as white often send nonverbal cues, consciously or not, that we don't want to process with our friends of color about how they have been treated. Those of us in healthy relationships often shut down conversations that arise around domestic violence or abuse. Our culture has made discussing our mental health taboo. Our society is not always open to hearing the stories of conscientious objectors. The list goes on of ways in which we prioritize our comfort over learning the history of our family and our friends. We are a faith community that values relationship. We are a faith community that values each person in their wholeness. One way we live into these values is by getting out of our comfort zone and being open to listening to each other's lived experiences. And to do this, we need to practice staying present. So we're going to do a short visualization to practice this. So I invite you to get comfortable. And I invite you to think about someone who you would like to learn more about. Close your eyes if that would help you visualize this person. And think about a question that you might ask them. Now take a deep breath in, and as you slowly exhale, think about how you would hold the space after you have asked that question. Imagine yourself being open to the person saying they don't want to talk about it right now. Imagine yourself being open to the person sharing more than you anticipated and being able to hold that. Now take another deep breath in, and as you exhale slowly, think about how you would say to that person that you are available if they ever do want to talk about it. Or how you would express your gratitude to them for having shared a story with you. As you take a final deep breath in, open your eyes if they have been closed. And as you exhale, be aware of how you're feeling right now. Do you feel calm? Do you feel a little anxious? There's no way to feel. I'm just wanting you to think about it, right? As you think about engaging with others. Know that you are always able to care for yourself by slowing down your breath, inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly in order to stay fully present in the conversation, whether you are the person telling your story or you are the person listening to a story. And remember that learning about our family's history and our friends' past is not always about the hard and challenging stories. Sometimes we need to ask about what have been the highlights of your career or your hobby. Ask about the joys of parenting and relationship. There are so many stories to be shared, and they encompass the full complexities of our life. It is my hope this Memorial Day weekend that you get the gift of both listening and sharing. May you find yourself in a moment when you can practice being present and being open to hearing someone else's story. And may you also find yourself in a moment when you feel safe enough to share of your whole self, whether that's sharing in silence or the telling of your story. Blessed be.
As we extinguish the chalice, please join in saying the words on the screen by the Reverend Elizabeth Sell Jones. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please rise in body or spirit and join in singing our closing hymn, number 1009, Meditation on Breathing.
All right, for this last hymn, there are 3 different parts. We're going to sing it the first time, all of us, all the way through. The second time, these 2 sections are going to stay with me, and we'll stay on the melody. Reverend Susan will have this section over here to do the when I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace part. And then the third time through, this far section will be with Rev Eileen, and you'll be doing the drone part of breathe in, breathe out. All right? Let's do it. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe when I breathe out,
a light. May you have time to remember and share the stories of your life and the stories of those who have come before. Please stay for our Yo Fresh social. We were going to be on the south lawn, but now we're just going to be in the cafe in the back of the sanctuary, so you're invited to help us set up some tables and stay and mingle. If you want to talk, Reverend Eileen and I are both here to hold you in your moments of grief and your times of joy. Blessed be. Go in peace.